I'd say the only hope we have is that in this election, the common real Egyptians, the enlightened Egyptians, will go out there and vote for the liberal, for the secular, for the civil society.
Naguib Sawirus is one of Egypt's richest, multi-billionaire involved in everything from cell phones to hotels. He also cares about his country. In fact, he was an intermediary between protesting students and Hosni Mubarak during the early days of the Arab Spring in January. Sawirus had great hopes about what those days would bring. But when we sat down late last week, even before the latest bloody riots Cairo's Tahrir Square is seeing now, it was clear his mood had changed considerably. It's been 9 months since the new Egypt was born, and we were used to, in those days, seeing you looking very optimistic, excited, eager, smiling. Hasn't been so much of that lately. What's gone wrong?
Well, the biggest mistake was that the young people who did the revolution, with a lot of good intentions, left the scene, and the scene was then hijacked by religious activists. I want to call them extremists. All the good notions, the good principles, the fight for freedom, and let's say the happiness of getting rid of a dictatorship now is compensated by the fact that we are worried from a new type of dictatorship, a religious one, So there is no more smiling, I would say.
And is it irretrievable? Has it gone too far?
It's not done yet. I mean, we have the elections coming up in 2 weeks, but...
you don't sound very optimistic about it.
I can't be. You can't be here because, if you take the mathematics, I mean, we're all the liberal parties, we are newly born, 6 months old, and we're getting into a fight against a coalition of religious forces that have been in preparation for that day for 8 years. They are well organized, well funded from Qatar and Saudi Arabia. We are coming 6 months old. We are not funded at all. We have very limited resources, and we are supposed to go.
You've got lots of resources. You're not.
Well, I cannot pay the bill for the whole country on my own. The Muslim Brotherhood has received $100 million from Qatar during the revolution, so that's a lot of money. I mean, how can you match that?
And what about Iran and Saudi Arabia?
No, I think Iran are not mixed up in our elections, but Saudi Arabia, some individuals also are financing some of the Salafis.
But you're worried if this continues along this path that Egypt could become another Iran.
Yes, I am.
Because of the religious connection.
Yeah, not only the religious. If they abolish the civil nature of the country and they decide for a religious country that has a religion, is governed by religion, and mainly it's an Islamic religion, so also, even as a Christian I would feel uncomfortable, let's say, from accepting such a reign, And all the moderate Muslims, which are friends of ours and who believe in the modern Egypt, don't want that too. Let's say the only hope we have is that in this election, the common real Egyptians, the enlightened Egyptians, will go out there and vote for the liberal, for the secular, for the civil society country. Now the problem we have is that many of them are passive. Many of them, I call them the party of the couch. They sit at home, watch TV, and think life will go on. And it will not go on. It's like, if you want to get a good example, and you remember the Iranian Revolution. It was not done by Khomeini and the fundamentalists. It was done by many young people, many youth, leftists, from the left, from communism, socialists, even moderate, who were against the Shia for their precautions and for the torture and for the corruption, same issues, okay? And suddenly, Mr. Khomeini arrives from Paris and takes over, and it turns into what it is today, and then you got this guy, Ahmadinejad, or whatever. Look at how he looks. So I'm sure all the Iranians did not expect that to happen. So, and the West is watching. It's not really active. They're just like sitting there and watching. I mean, the others are acting.
What do you want the West to do?
They could have supported the liberal parties. They have done nothing to support them.
But don't they have to be careful about, in any way, seeming like they're intervening?
So why are the other ones not careful? Why can Qatar do that and Saudi Arabia, and you have to be careful? Either you prevent them from doing what they're doing, or you don't be careful.
Take us into the world after the election for a moment. If a Muslim Brotherhood party wins this election, is there room still in that Egypt for you?
We will fight till the end.
But what do you mean by fight?
We will be in the next parliament, even with a minority. We will be in the opposition. We will mobilize the Egyptians, the free Egyptians, to fight for the neutrality and the civil nature of Egypt. We will not surrender to a religious state. So they win, they don't win, we will be there and we will be continuing our fight.
But continuing the fight in a democratic fashion?
Of course.
I mean, you would respect the election outcome.
We have to. As a Democrat, we have to.
You had connections with the Mubarak people. You knew Mubarak. You talked with Mubarak. You were a part of the kind of intermediary force during the negotiations in his last days. Do you think, looking back now, it was a mistake?
No. The problem is that actually it is the Mubarak to blame to what we are in today. Because he had not allowed, during his reign, liberal people like us, advanced young people, to have a different voice than the National Party they had. So while the Muslim Brotherhood operated underground, were completely organized, had their branches, had their finances, had their infrastructure ready. So when the day came for the competition, they're much more stronger. All what they used to tell us, well, if you don't take me as Mubarak and my party, you will have to end up with these people. So what kind of a choice is that? There must be another choice, you know. So people like me who were not in his party, who did not like the party, who did not approve of the succession theory of his son, were lost. We had no party. So when we went to when the revolution came, we thought after that you know, everything will go the right way, and the right way would have been to write the constitution first, to make sure that the civil nature of Egypt is maintained, then to have the election of the presidency, so we have a president, we don't have to have the military ruling, and then we do the elections for the parliament.
So help me understand why people like Mubarak, we saw Gaddafi, who was certainly no friend of yours, or anyone you had any respect for, next door, in Libya, being shot in the head after being trapped in a sewer.
No, that's exactly a criminal. That's a criminal act. Even
no, but what I'm trying to understand is why don't people like that get it in the final days? How can they not see what's happening in their country?
Because for 40 years, 30 years, they live in a completely different sphere. Everybody's scared from them. Everybody smiles in their face. Everybody does whatever they tell them, even if it's wrong. How would you ever think like that? You get disengaged from the reality. Well, the best example is even now, if you look at Bashar al-Assad, for example. I mean, he definitely, he gets the Oscar. He sees what happened in Tunisia. He sees what happened then in Yemen. He sees what happened in Libya and in Egypt, okay? And then what happened in Libya, and he doesn't get it. So what more do you want? I mean, he has seen the same circumstances, same scenario, and still he keeps on killing his own people every day.
Will it be the same outcome?
Definitely, no doubt. Look, there's a very simple rule. The minute the blood of your people has been spilled on the ground, you're finished. The only salvation you have is to prevent that from happening. If you keep on doing that, you've signed your own death.
Even without the help from outside forces?
Even without the help. It will cost more, there will be more victims, but the result is inevitable. Because the more you kill, the more anger you drive in many people.
I understand that. I get that. But I've also heard you express at times that to topple somebody like Assad, to topple a regime like that, it would need help from the outside.
No, not maybe the outside, but maybe the army itself will get dismantled. Because like in Libya, some of the army fractions left, and they formed the military resistance, and that could be the start. That's why, they have found many graves in Syria of officers being shot. It's like when they tell them shoot the people and they don't shoot, they start shooting on them. You cannot say it's foreign interference when you're watching someone slaughtering his own people. I mean, what is that? It's an excuse not to do anything. Like we all sit at our home, go to bed, and then every day there are 30 Syrians every day dying. How can you sympathize with someone who is allowing these people to be shot because they don't want him?
You know, so much of what you said in this interview leaves one going, is this really working, the Arab Spring? Is it working?
No, it's not working.
Anywhere?
No, it's not working. But it doesn't, you see, you can't argue that because it's not working, then these old dictatorships were okay. They were not okay. So this is the dilemma. The dilemma is that, you know, and I'm saying the West has to play proactive role. They cannot leave us in this mess. All this mess will spill to theirs.
But what's a proactive role? What do they have to do?
The proactive role is to go and see whoever is in charge in these countries, tell them, look, we will not condone a religious regime. It's not interference. We will not condone treating minorities unfairly. We will not condone the non-rule of law and justice. Your countries have to adhere to the United Nations main principles, you know, the human rights principles. Any deviation for that or that, we will interfere.
What do they say when you say to them? Because I know you talk to governments, Western governments.
They don't say anything, and they don't do anything.
How much time do they have to do something?
Not very much time. Too little, very little time. And I'm not telling governments go and bring your armies and interfere. I'm just telling them is you need to be proactive. You need to monitor the situation. You need to try and help rebuilding these countries in a democratic way, not to leave it drift. You know, equality, right of freedom of speech, right to get any job they are qualified for, not based on their race or religion. And we're not asking for miracles. You know.
Fascinating talking to you.
Thank you.
Wish you luck.
We'll need it.
الذين كفروا ينفقون أموالهم ليصدوا عن سبيل الله فسينفقونها ثم تكون عليهم حسرة ثم يغلبون والذين كفروا إلى جهنم يحشرون ليميز الله الخبيث من الطيب ويجعل الخبيث بعضه على بعض فيركمه جميعا فيجعله في جهنم أولئك هم الخاسرون